All right, we're getting close to the time, and we'll, if we'll go ahead and get ready, we'll call the meeting order momentarily. Lisa, do you want to go ahead and read the opening, housekeeping remarks?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us and participating in a remote meeting for RCTC. We will do our best to facilitate a smooth meeting with public participation. Before we begin, I would like to review some guidelines and general instructions for the meeting. Please silence your other communication devices, such as your cell or desk phone. This will ensure that we are not hearing any feedback or causing interruption during the meeting. After each agenda item, the chair will announce public comment. For those participating on Zoom, if you'd like to make a public comment, on the Zoom screen, click on the gray raise hand button. This will signal to the host that you would like to provide public comment. If you are using Zoom on your smartphone, tap your screen. Look for the raise hand button on the screen. For those calling in using the phone line only, you can dial *9 on your keypad to signal that you would like to comment. Thank you.
Very good. We'll go ahead and start with a roll call then.
District 1?
District 1 here.
District 2?
Here.
District 3? District 4?
Here.
District 5?
Here.
Banning?
Present.
Beaumont? Beaumont? Blythe?
Here.
Calamasa?
Here.
Canyon Lake?
Here.
Cathedral City?
Here.
Coachella?
Here.
Corona?
Present.
Desert Hot Springs?
Scott, you're on mute.
Present.
Thank you. Eastville?
Present.
Emmett? Here. Indian Wells?
Here.
Indio?
Present.
Karupa Valley? Karupa Valley?
I am here.
Thank you. La Quinta?
Here.
Lake Elsinore?
Here.
Menifee?
Is here.
Marina Valley? Marina Valley? Marietta?
Here.
Norco?
Here.
Palm Desert?
Here.
Palm Springs?
Present.
Paris?
Here.
Rancho Mirage?
Here.
Riverside?
Here.
San Jacinto?
I am here.
Temecula?
Here.
Wildemar?
Here.
Caltrans District 8?
Here.
We do have a quorum.
Very good. In honor of Veterans Day just yesterday, I'd like to ask one of our veterans, Mayor Bailey, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Surely.
Thank you.
Please join me loudly and proudly to pledge allegiance to our flag. There it is. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Very good. Thank you, sir. And thank you for your service and all of our other veterans that are on our board. Thank you for all your service and all the veterans out there. All right, with that, we'll go on to public comments. Do we have any public comments for items that are not on the agenda? If you're on the phone, you would need to hit *9 to raise your hand. If you're on a computer, you would hit the raised hand button under the participants list, or it might just be on the bottom of your screen. Not seeing any raised hands. Do we have any public comments that came in via email or other means?
Not on items not on the agenda.
All right. With that, we'll go ahead and move on to item number 4, the additions or revisions. Do we have any additions or revisions to the agenda?
No, sir.
Not hearing any. All right, we'll go on to the consent calendar. So is there anyone that wishes to speak any items from the consent calendar or have any items pulled?
Move to approve, Paris.
A motion to approve the consent calendar as a whole from Paris.
Banning so moves.
I believe a second from Banning. I'll ask one last time, is there any public comment on this? Not seeing any hands raised.
District 1?
1, yes.
District 2?
Yes.
District 4,
Yes.
District 5,
Yes.
Banning,
yes,
Beaumont, Blythe,
Yes.
Calamasa,
Yes.
Canyon Lake,
Abstain.
Cathedral City,
Yes.
Coachella,
Yes.
Corona,
Aye.
Desert Hot Springs,
Aye.
Eastville,
Aye.
Hemet,
Yes.
Indian Wells,
Aye.
Indio,
Yes.
Karupa Valley,
Yes.
La Quinta,
Yes.
Lake Elsinore,
Aye.
Menifee,
Aye.
Moreno Valley, Marietta,
Yes.
Norco,
Yes.
Palm Desert,
Yes.
Palm Springs,
Aye.
Paris,
Yes.
Rancho Mirage,
Yes.
Riverside, Riverside, San Jacinto,
Yes.
Temecula,
Yes.
Wildemar.
Yes.
The item passes.
Very good. That brings us to item number 6, the County of Riverside request for an increase to the loan for the Hamner Bridge project. L'Oreal, go ahead.
Hi, good morning. Thank you, Chair Benoit. I have a short presentation for you today, PowerPoint. Great, thank you. This item is for the County of Riverside loan increase on the Hamner Avenue Bridge widening project. Next slide. The Hamner Bridge is located in western Riverside County at the border of the cities of Norco and Eastvale on Hamner Avenue, just north of 6th Street and south of Citrus Avenue over the Santa Ana River. And the county is serving as the implementing agency for this project, given their project delivery expertise. The project is one of 5 projects in the Riverside County Transportation Efficiency Corridor, which was created in 2017 under Senate Bill 132. Next slide. The project replaces the existing 2-lane deficient bridge, which was originally built in 1939 with a longer, wider, multi-purpose bridge that will improve public safety and traffic circulation. Next slide. This is a rendering of what the bridge will look like when complete, which includes 3 lanes in each direction and a multi-purpose trail. The total construction cost is $61.5 million and is comprised of $54 million from the Federal Highway Bridge Program, $5.6 million from SB 132, and $2 million from WRCOG's TUMF program. In January 2020, the Commission approved a loan in the amount of $33,463,000 for this project because the Federal Highway Bridge Program is extremely limited in funding and is oversubscribed. Caltrans has scheduled the obligation of HBP construction funds over a 5-year period, with more than half the funds coming in fiscal year 23 and 24, causing a cash flow issue. Since January, the county has tried twice to obligate $15.3 million of federal HBP funds. However, in both instances was told that funding was not available. Most recently, the lack of cash flow at the state level is due to the continuing resolution passed by Congress to keep the federal government funded through December 11th, 2020. If Congress continues to pass continuing resolutions, or worse, goes into a government shutdown, the chances of the county receiving their funding obligation narrows. As an SB 132 funded project, keeping the project on schedule is critical to ensure that the legislative requirement to fully expend funds by June 30, 2023 is met. Additionally, the county has received strong competitive construction bids and anticipates awarding a construction contract in early December next month. Construction is projected to last over a 20-month period. Providing an increase to the loan amount for this project will ensure that the project moves forward and stays on schedule. We have continued to work with Caltrans and have brought this to the attention of management that this program needs to be reevaluated because it has not been reliable and is highly oversubscribed. Next slide. And for these reasons, staff recommends an increase in the loan to the county in the amount of $18,668,000 in MARA and/or TUMF regional arterial funds for a total loan amount not to exceed $52,131,000. If approved, staff will work with Caltrans, the county, and the cities of Eastvale and Norco to enter into or amend existing agreements to reflect the terms of the loan as previously authorized by the commission in January 2020. And that concludes my presentation. Happy to answer any questions.
Sorry, I was on mute. All right, first up, I have Karen Spiegel. Supervisor Spiegel, go ahead.
Yes, I'm very supportive of this item. In fact, would like to move the item. Just to remind everyone, this is a parallel transportation modal that runs parallel to the 15. So when the 15 backs up, this is the only way to get through without going side streets. This is the main thoroughfare. Goes all the way from Corona through Norco, through Eastvale, and all the way into Hoover Valley. So this is a very long through the entire district. It's a much needed project. And I see Berwin smiling over there. As we're saying goodbye to Berwin, this is his last meeting. This is a very big project he and all of us in this area have been working on. So we look forward to the support from the rest of the board.
Very good. Berwin, go right ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, everybody. Yeah, I wanted to thank Ann and the staff for all the hard work they've done on keeping up with this bridge. I brought this to the city of Norco's attention in December of 2010 when we had a major flood. Water was going over both, or coming from two directions on that, and I had my horse rescue team down there waiting to get in and get those horses out, but we couldn't get in for several hours. And then I made everybody move their vehicles off the bridge because it looked like it was going to go at any time. And since they built the city of Eastvale, and that's not a bad thing, it's good to have a good neighbor like Eastvale is, the traffic has really increased over there. And then they blame a lot of the traffic jams on Silver Lakes, which happens on the weekends, except since we've had the virus, they haven't been operating. But if you want to see traffic, go over there of a morning or afternoon during the rush hour, and then drive 2 miles across town over there on Archibald River Road, where that other big bridge is that we opened about 10 years ago, and you'll see quite a difference in what extra lanes make. So I appreciate everybody's support on this and everything, and sorry that the feds run out of money and we have to loan them that, but I think it'd be a boon to the area if we pass this. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments, Councilmember Hanna. Our next speaker, Councilmember Lormore.
Thank you, Chairman White. I appreciate everybody's comments, the presentation. As has already been stated, this is vitally important. The bridge is truly outdated, and we need to keep it moving forward, and support from this body to keep this bridge moving would be greatly appreciated. And we need to have a place for Norco residents to be able to come across the bridge and go shopping in our city. So that would be really helpful. Anyway, thank you all in advance. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Very good. Supervisor Hewitt.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see how this works. I see that on our picture, it shows that pedestrians will be in the multi-use crossing, such like that. I believe in City of Calamasa, they've had a desire to do some bridges over the 10 and stuff, including those. So going down the road, it's obviously Norco's very big on equestrians and such. So I'm really curious to see how well it works. And I don't think this has been done that many times. So again, I'm excited about it.
Very good. Councilmember Bergson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just wanted to also show my support. This is definitely a bridge that's needed for the region. So this
the artist rendition of the trail, I was just curious, is that going to be it's a multi-purpose trail that goes across the bridge, but is that going to be like half concrete and half dirt for the horses? Or is that going to just be concrete? I was just curious about that.
I actually don't know offhand. I can find out for you and get back to you unless there is someone from the county that is online. Caesar? No, okay. I apologize, Commissioner. I don't know offhand, but I can definitely find out for you and follow up.
I just think it's important that, Norco, Horsetown, USA, of course, you want to make sure that if horses are crossing that bridge, that they have the right material to do that. And I'm not sure that concrete is the right material. So anyway, just
Councilmember Hannah has raised his hand again. My guess is he might have the answer to that. Councilmember Hannah, do you want to comment on that, or? Oh, you're on mute, sir.
Okay, it'll be a material that.
Hello, this is Caesar from the County of Riverside.
Hold on, Caesar. The councilmember speaking just for a second.
Sorry.
I'll come right back to you.
Okay.
It'll be a material that horses will be safe on, just like the one on the River Road Bridge over there. They have the same crossing over there, and people use it and everything. But it's important to have that trail connector because the county trails come through the river bottom over there and go across Silver Lakes and goes under Hamner into the park there at Eastvale, and then goes on west. But it will be a safe material. They won't put anything on there that'll be slick.
There you go.
Perfect. Thank you.
Do you have anything to add there, Mr. Trujillo?
Yes, it's going to be constructed over rubberized asphalt. So it's going to be the same material that we did River Road, and it's friendly for the horses. So
very good. Berwin, while you've got yourself unmuted there, I'd ask that since you've been working on this project for so long, I'd love to hear if you'd like to make a motion to this item. And have one more speaker.
Yeah, I would love to make the motion to approve this. I thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second that.
Thank you for all your service, and thank you, Karen's second. I still have one more speaker, Councilmember Harnick.
This is going to be really quick. I, of course, support this for all the reason Councilman Hannah mentioned, but my real comment is gosh, am I going to miss Berwin Hannah?
Here, here.
I'll send you a picture.
I'll take it.
Well, hopefully it's a picture someday of you riding across that bridge, sir. We're all going to miss you, but thanks for all your hard work over the years.
No, I missed you guys. It's been fun. Thank you.
All right. I don't have any other speakers in the queue other than Brian. You still have your hand raised, but I think we got your question answered. Any public comment on this item? Not seeing anybody with their hand raised. Again, it's *9 to raise your hand if you're on the phone, or the hand raise button. All right. I will go ahead and ask for a roll call, please.
District 1?
District 1, yes.
District 2?
Yes.
District 3? District 4?
Yes.
District 5?
Yes.
Banning?
Yes.
Beaumont?
Yes.
Blythe?
Yes.
Calamasa?
Yes.
Canyon Lake?
Yes.
Cathedral City?
Yes.
Coachella?
Yes.
Corona?
Abstain. My company is working on the bridge project.
Thank you. Desert Hot Springs?
Aye.
Eastville?
Aye.
Hemet?
Yes.
Indian Wells?
Yes.
Indio?
Yes.
Parupa Valley?
Yes.
La Quinta?
Yes.
Lake Elsinore?
Aye.
Menifee?
Yes.
Marina Valley? Marietta?
Yes.
Norco?
Yes.
Palm Desert?
Yes.
Palm Springs?
Aye.
Paris?
Yes.
Rancho Mirage?
Yes.
Riverside?
Yes.
San Jacinto?
Yes.
Temecula?
Yes.
Wildemar?
Only because Berwin Hannah made the motion. Yes.
That item does pass.
All right, very good. That brings on to item number 7, implementation and management service agreement between the Riverside County Transportation Commission and Western Riverside County Regional Conservation Authority. And Mayor, Ann, please go ahead.
Thank you. Good morning, commissioners. Lisa, could you please put the presentation up for me? Thank you. Okay, good morning, commissioners. The item before you is the consideration of a request from the Western Riverside County Regional Conservation Authority to serve as its managing agency. Next slide. Thank you. As a reminder, we received a request in August, and since that time, under the direction of the executive committee, we conducted a 60-day due diligence period followed by preparation of the items before you today. In October, the executive committee directed staff to bring the item forward for full commission review. A parallel process was conducted at RCA, and on November 2nd, the RCA board approved the managing agency agreement and the budget adjustments necessary for implementation. Next slide. The Western Riverside County Multi-Species Habitat Conservation Development and Implementation was an important component of the Riverside County Integrated Project, which focused on integration of land use, transportation, and preservation policies. Measure A expenditure plan included $153 million in Measure A funds to support the plan, which provides coverage for 146 species. The MSHCP is the largest plan of its kind in the United States, with a goal of assembling 500,000 acres, 410,000 of which has already been acquired. RCTC is a signatory to the MSHCP, and transportation projects on the highway and local roads have benefited from cost and time savings to receive environmental document approvals. While the transportation-related component of the MSHCP has proven successful and of benefit to project delivery, there have been some systematic challenges. The majority of the challenges are related to insufficient funding to complete the property acquisitions and the impact on private property owners, developers, and local jurisdictions. Those issues, among others, such as a loss of historical and institutional knowledge, led the RCA board to consider long-term organization options. As a framework for our due diligence process, we focused on key objectives for both agencies. Next slide. For RCA, there was a clear interest in a need to complete the MSHCP and the additional 90,000 acres of land acquisition. They were looking for an opportunity to create cost efficiencies, but very importantly, to strengthen a presence in Sacramento and DC to secure additional funding and to strengthen public engagement. As I mentioned before, there have been some challenges related to the impact on property owners, stakeholders, developers, and local jurisdictions, and enhancing and strengthening public engagement is a key component of future success. Next slide. For RCTC, some of the key objectives that we held as a framework as we were conducting the due diligence process was that there would be no harm to the RCTC organization, its mission, its programs and projects, as well as ensuring that we had complete cost recovery, no assumption of legal and financial obligations, and that if we were going to do this, we needed to do it right and make sure that we had the resources necessary for both agencies' missions to be successful. Next slide, please. We conducted a due diligence assessment that looked at several areas. What would be the implementation mechanism? How would we implement the structure for a managing agency agreement? We looked at the financial implications. How could we create firewalls between the two organizations? We looked at legal issues and looked at ways of ensuring that there were no assumption of legal risk. We looked at policies to see where we had similar policies, where we had different policies, and we came up with a framework that established a policy process going forward. We also evaluated existing contracts and looked for opportunities to streamline and consolidate. And finally, we looked at staffing in an organization to see what it would take to implement this managing agency agreement. Within our due diligence process, we did not find any fatal flaws. that would prevent the commission from considering this agreement. Next slide, please. So the structure that is before you today to implement this agreement, should you choose to do so, is a managing agency implementation agreement. A couple of key highlights that I think are really important. RCTC and RCA will remain separate legal entities. Under the managing agency agreement, the RCTC staff will continue to serve under the direction of the RCTC Executive Committee and Board. We will be reimbursed for all RCA related costs. Again, another important factor is that our existing statutory and joint powers authorities, so for us, it's our statutory authorities, and for RCA, it's their joint powers authorities. None of those are impacted by this managing agency agreement. And I should point out, currently RCA has a managing agency agreement with the County of Riverside. Another important component is that, as I mentioned before, RCTC is a signatory to the existing MSHCP agreements, and we have roles and responsibilities there related to our projects and programs. Nothing about this managing agency agreement will alter our responsibilities under the MSHCP. Those will remain unchanged. The RCA board will be responsible for RCA policy and financial decisions. RCTC will be responsible for approval of jointly funded and consolidated shared contracts. As I mentioned before, we had conducted a contract and consultant assessment, a preliminary one, and we've identified that it's very likely we can consolidate some contracts, and those will be under the purview of the RCTC board. And those that are jointly funded will still need RCA board approval for budgetary purposes. And then finally, as I mentioned before, we conducted a preliminary assessment of our policies and processes, and we will be utilizing RCTC's general administrative policies and processes. Those that are specific to RCA will be incorporated into our processes as well. Next slide, please. So under the managing agency agreement, RCTC would be assuming expanded responsibilities and obligations related to RCA management. We would be reimbursed for all costs associated with staff time providing the services. And to be very clear, all staff would be RCTC employees under the direction of the RCTC board. We have identified a continued role for every existing RCA assigned county employee and can offer a job to each of them, other than the acting executive director, Honey Burness, who is retiring at the end of the year. All RCA assigned staff, should they choose to accept a job offer from RCTC, would separate from county employment and become a RCTC employee. Creating an integrated organization is of great importance, not only for efficiency, but also to ensure that we take advantage of the fact that the combined strength of the two missions of RCTC and RCA can help us seek additional funding in both Sacramento and in DC. So our integrated organization, we currently have 54 RCTC positions, and I apologize, there's a typo on the slide. We will now have 70, if this is approved by the board, we will go to 73 full-time equivalents. It's a 19 staff person increase. There will be, in addition to the positions transferring over from the county, we have identified 4 new joint positions that will be, the costs will be shared between RCTC and RCA. 2 of those, as I mentioned before, are need for enhanced outreach and coordination with local agencies and stakeholders. 2 of those positions are in public affairs and legislative affairs. The others are in finance and procurement. Again, I mentioned that we will have opportunities created for streamlining consultant contracts. And I do want to point out, as I mentioned before, there's an existing agreement with the County of Riverside. That agreement will be terminated in some respects, but also amended in others, in that RCA continues to be on the county's accounting and finance system, their IT system. We will need to have a somewhat lengthy transition as we phase those arrangements out. My understanding is that agreement with the county will be going to the Board of Supervisors in December. Next slide, please. We have identified the need for 3 stages of implementation. As you can see, the first stage is about immediate transition. It will take a number of months to accomplish it, and it will be done while we try to make sense of what the future holds with the pandemic. We expect that this implementation will take a significant amount of my time as well as others in the organization. Next slide. Stage 2 is when we begin to make significant structural changes. There will need to be a coherent strategy to implement the plan and protect the permit that we have. This includes the need to acquire and manage land, but also seeking legislative and funding support with enhanced outreach to the public and to stakeholders. Next slide. Stage 3 calls for the continued implementation of the MSHCP, continued improvement of the governance structure, and also with hopes of additional funding and additional acquisition, a gradual change in focus from acquisition to maintenance of the acquired land. And again, I do need to point out there are some components of the transition, such as transitioning from the county's financial system to RCTC's financial system, that will likely occur in stage 3. Next slide. It was a compliment to this agency to be approached with this opportunity, and that's because we excel in areas that are mission critical for RCA, such as right-of-way acquisition, management, legislative advocacy, and grant pursuits, coordination with state and federal agencies, and perhaps most of all, fiscal responsibility. We can make a significant and lasting difference in these areas. It is elected officials who first conceived of the MSHCP, Measure A, and the Riverside County Integrated Project, and it continues to be elected officials who govern how we implement these and other regional policies. If this is a change that the Commission would like to pursue, and if you are supportive, we can be successful. I assure you that RCTC can bring positive change to the implementation of the MSHCP. We get things done. However, to get things done, changes will need to be made. And here are some thoughts for your consideration as you weigh this decision today. Today, RCTC has no role in land use in your communities. While the legal entity of RCTC will continue to have no authority over local land use under a RCA management agreement, I and members of my staff will be involved in review of development applications and acquisition of property in your jurisdictions. We know that this area of the MSHCP implementation has been difficult for many of our member agencies. And this perhaps is the most significant challenge that we will be facing during this transition. As I mentioned before, we've got several stages of implementation. We expect that stakeholder outreach will be one of the things that we focus most on. And I do need to point out that I think this is the area where we're going to need to rebuild some trust with stakeholders. We will need to have open and transparent conversations about their concerns with the implementation of the plan and how it affects development projects. And I know this is critical to the Commission. Some of you may recall that we had a joint RCTC RCA meeting a number of years ago where a commitment was made to establish a stakeholder committee with ongoing conversation, and that did not occur. So that would be one of the things that we would need to reconstitute relatively quickly after we start implementation. Several other comments. Implementing this plan is not going to get any easier with the passage of time. Although we were able to make an initial investment and our Measure A responsibility has been met, there's much more to do. Securing funding from state and federal and private sources is much more difficult and will require a greater level of effort and organizational focus. And additionally, the county will continue to grow and development pressures will provide both an opportunity to acquire the necessary habitat, but also make it all the more important that the integrity of the MSHCP be bolstered. Finally, maybe this type of union might help RCTC deal with the transportation policies the state of California is heading towards anyway. Where to build any highway capacity, we need to provide offsetting environmental benefits. RCTC has always been squarely focused on integrating our programs with environmental responsibility, and now we would be in a much greater leadership role. It could be beneficial to our mission, but it's also a shift in priorities. In closing, the most important consideration is not the organizations themselves. This is more about the MSHCP and what it means for Western Riverside County and the county as a whole. Instead of wondering how it might affect RCTC or RCA, the question should be, how do we maintain our permit? What would it mean to transportation and development if we lost the permit? How can we improve the value proposition of the MSHCP? And how can we reach out to our stakeholders within Western Riverside County to ensure that we're all supporting an improved quality of life? The question, all of those questions can only be answered with your direction and leadership. Next slide. Commissioners, the items before you today for consideration as recommended by the Executive Committee are these. Approve the Implementation and Management Services Agreement between RCTC and the Western Riverside County Regional Conservation Authority for an initial 5-year term and successive 1-year terms thereafter. 2, authorize the chair pursuant to legal counsel review to finalize and execute the agreement. 3, approve budget adjustments of $1.8 million and $2 million to increase fiscal year 2021 budgeted expenditures and revenues respectively related to salaries, benefits, and other costs necessary to implement the agreement. And 4, approve the revised fiscal year 2021 salary ranges that incorporate the new classifications at RCTC. Next slide. Commissioners, that completes my presentation, and I am happy to answer any questions you may have.
Very good. Thank you for a very thorough and well thought out presentation. And this is definitely an item that we've been moving towards for quite some time. And with that, we'll go into questions. Supervisor Jeffries, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I strongly support this concept of moving the RCA over to RCTC. I really don't see any internal challenges with the RCTC staff doing some work to help build the RCA back up. I think it's going to be pretty simple. I shouldn't use the word simple. I think it's going to be easily done. But I think the real challenge for Ann and therefore the RCA board is to find that, I think you call it a deputy director position that would head up the RCA within your organizational structure. That person, in my opinion, is going to be key to the success of this entire operation and how well it blends with the RCTC and the leadership over at RCA. So I have no concerns with the way you've laid this out. I think the work that you and Honey have done over at the RCA to put this all together, your teams, is really good. I think it's a real strong foundation. But the key to success is going to be that deputy director position going forward. They need to be very knowledgeable of Riverside County, Western Riverside County, all the players, and they need to have a strong personality to deal with all the criticism that comes from all of us in our respective elected positions with the RCA. So I'll just say good job, and I think you're on a good path.
Thank you. Commissioner Jeffries, I would have to share that I am in very strong agreement with you with respect to that deputy position, and thank you very much for the support. Just to clarify on that position, we have identified that position. It is our goal to start the recruitment for that position. within the next 4 to 6 months. In the interim, the internal RCTC staff will step into that role to make assessments, but we do plan on conducting a recruitment for that position later this fiscal year. It is crucial.
Yeah, and look, you're going to be responsible for this in the interim, and I don't want to second guess you, but in my opinion, the sooner the better for that position. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Very good. Councilmember Speak.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to second what Supervisor Jeffries said. I think it's really, I'm excited that this is going to happen. I think that there's some, I will tell you that on the development side that the MSHCP and how well it functions and how well it functions with all of us and the development community will be the grease that gets our economy kind of moving and getting a cohesive group that RCTC functions at a really high level, bringing that, and again I'll second what Supervisor Jeffrey says, having the right person in that deputy director role is going to be really important, that understands not just how all of us and all these jurisdictions all work together in Western Riverside County. It's going to be important to understand the relationships between the resource agencies, because it has been some damage there, and also the development community and getting this together so they really see this as a help to get projects done the right way and to preserve contiguous habitat so it can be preserved for the future and for all of us. So I just want to say thank you for this and thank you for the work that's been done. I would have one question though. Do you see that we're going to have some cost savings? And I know the first couple of years are going to be a little rough, just trying to figure out how all pieces work. Are you seeing we're going to see a cost savings in maybe year 3 and 4?
So our goal certainly would be to be as cost efficient as we possibly can. I can't promise you that there will be cost savings, because at the same time this action is taking place, the objectives are increasing in terms of needing to ramp up the acquisition of the lands, increase work in Sacramento and in Washington, D.C. So expectations are raising as well. What I can tell you is that we will immediately begin the assessment of joint contracts to see, do we have an opportunity to consolidate, so that there could be some cost savings there, but what could also occur could be we can become much more effective. I will say in terms of where we have opportunities to jointly fund staff, that we could see some benefit there as well. But I hesitate to promise any cost savings, because at the same time we're being asked to do more.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was going to ask about. I know the waxes and wanes in both groups and how those matched up with each other. Are there times when the RCA staff isn't quite as busy, so there's going to be opportunities to share staff? And I see that we're going to be hiring more on the legislative side and the advocacy side, so I think that's really important. But I was just curious about how well, or how many of those joint positions that we can push, to find some cost savings, maybe as again in year 3 and 4. But thank you. I think you've answered my question, so thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Our next speaker has a question. Councilmember Bergson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I just wanted to express my support and to mention that this has gone in front of the executive committee several times over the last 3 or 4 months. So we've been looking at it and asking all the questions, what the advantages and disadvantages and the synergies would be. Ann and the RCTC team has provided very adequate responses to all of our questions. The one thing I just was thinking of earlier today was office space. With 19 new full-time employee positions coming in, do we have enough office space, or are we going to run into a situation where we may have to relocate from the county building or add more? I mean, I don't think we really talked about that, so I just wanted to get some kind of clarity on that.
So, Commissioner, my greatest wish would be that we have to worry about not having enough office space, because that means we're all back to work. So from my perspective, that would be a nice problem to have right now. But
Good response.
Thank you, Commissioner Welch. RCA currently has is in a 10-year lease with the county at the building across the street from the County Administrative Center, off of, I think it's 10th Street. And so I think that lease doesn't expire until 2028. We're in the middle of a long-term lease as well. So for now, the plan would be that we'll retain our 2 offices, but we're right across the street from each other. But also point out that we also have staff out in Corona at the Regional Operations Center. So we already have staff in a couple of different places. So for the time being, we'll all just stay where we are. And then we're just right across the street. So hopefully we will get back in person in the near future.
My comments were actually thinking past COVID, because obviously nobody's there right now.
I know we'll be sitting tight where we are probably for a couple of years at least. It's my expectation.
Okay. And that's not going to be an issue with the synergies that you need to work between RCTC and RCA?
No, well, we're right across the street. We can be there within a matter of a couple of minutes. In the past, like for example, it was just a couple of years ago, we had another office over on Vine Street. We weren't mostly consolidated until WRCOG moved out of our building. So we've been able to maintain communication in spite of being in different locations. So I'm confident we can make it work.
Very good. Thank you. Appreciate the answer.
Supervisor Hewitt?
Yes, thank you. The marriage between these 2 agencies, to me, when I look at all of it, there are going to be some challenges going forward, especially for the first year or 2. However, the good that comes about and the strengthening of both agencies, to me, is quite clear. And the things I'd like to say, which several people have already said, is to both staffs that have worked together on this, and there's too many people to even mention, but I would again like to put out some special personal thanks to not only Honey Burness, who has done a ton of work bringing this in and making it work, and with all of her institutional knowledge and historical knowledge, thank goodness we have her. But also, it's a personal thanks to Ann for taking on a whole lot more responsibility. I think she is the right person to do it. I think she's capable, but this is a big deal. And should we vote on this today, I think it is a really good marriage. And I think we can go forward with both agencies and improve their futures all the way. So again, personal thanks to both of these, all the people that worked on it, but specifically those 2 people.
Very good. All right, Mayor Bailey?
Yeah, I agree with my colleagues, my fellow commissioners on all respects. Just want to keep the potential of the Santa Ana River Trail top of mind as you go through this, and hope that can be on every agenda. I know RCTC has done some project management already along the river trail, and just hope that we can continue the momentum there.
Very good. Thank you, Mayor Bailey. Mayor Pro Tem McGee?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. First of all, reading the recommendations from staff, this really could be relabeled the RCA Full Employment Act. I listened very carefully to what our executive director had to say, and she stressed that she believes that she has the opportunity to make positive changes, and that RCTC staff will be reviewing development applications, and that she feels quite strongly that she can rebuild the trust of the stakeholders. And that trust, in my opinion, is rattled. The promises made in January of 2004 have not been kept. They have not been kept. In my opinion, the RCA is a failed organization. In business, you determine success or failure by time, dollars, and results. Having processed development applications both before and after the MSHCP, I can tell you it takes longer now, it is more expensive, and your results are restricted. This organization has failed us, in my opinion. The promises were not kept. Our executive director now, should this item pass, has the opportunity to turn this organization around. So my message to our executive director will be to continue to review the organizational restructuring opportunities within the RCA, exercise strict budget discipline. Permit streamlining needs to finally occur. And that means staff needs to advocate for its partners, not simply roll over to the resource agencies. And the program itself needs to have equity amongst the participants. One jurisdiction can't be forced to give up thousands of acres while another gives up zero. We need to revisit the RAND report, $1 million study funded by the taxpayers that was put on the shelf and never pulled out again. There's a recipe and a pathway in there that needs to be followed. And then finally, we need to push, or our executive director needs to push. She needs to push our resource agencies to keep their promises of funding and cooperation in order to make the MSHCP work in a fair and equitable manner. Mr. Chairman, thank you for allowing me those comments.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem McGee. Councilmember Vinton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Understanding this is for management services and whatnot. However, as we're combining these two, for the most part, our agencies would see eye to eye, but inevitably we're going to see things differently and the boards will want different things. Do you foresee any kind of conflicts moving forward with that? And if so, how would we address them?
Thank you for the question, Commissioner Vinton. So we are required to process our projects through the MSHCP processes. And it's fair to say that generally those processes go smoothly, but we are required to get the same, similar types of approvals. What we have already started on to address any potential disagreements between the different departments at RCTC, we are developing a process that would not only address creating a firewall between different parts of the organization to ensure that the approval processes are separated from the project delivery processes. So not only creating a firewall, but also creating an issue resolution process so that it's very clear that if there's internal disagreements within RCTC, we've got a formalized process that will eventually end up on my desk should it not be resolved prior to that. But we are implementing a formal written process, and it will be implemented, right at the first of the year. And we will ensure that all staff are well aware of it. We need to ensure not only that there isn't any variance from our roles and responsibilities under the plan, but we need to make sure there's not a perception as well that one part of the organization is influencing the other inappropriately.
Thank you, Anne, for that. Understanding that we will have difficulties moving forward, I am in support of this, and I think it will be a good thing for both organizations. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Oh, my apologies. I was on mute. Thank you for that question, Councilmember Vinton. Councilmember Nagar?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree 100% with Bob McGee, but I do want to add a few things. I think this commission should also, I support it. I think this commission should also charge in that RCTC develop the mentality not to take property without just compensation or hold developers leveraged because they won't give up their property. That was part and parcel some of the promises that were made back in 2003 when actually prior to 2003 when the RCIP and the MSHCP was adopted. But prior to that, in all of our workshops, and I participated in those going back as far as the year 2001, that was the idea and the promises made to everybody if they participated in this, because they were frightened that this would give one organization leverage. The opposite was portrayed, that leverage wouldn't be used to take property without just compensation, but that development would be streamlined because of the streamlined permit process. That never played out. In fact, taking property without just compensation gained momentum so that it became standard operating procedure. And actually, attitudes were fostered in the organization that were communicated to developers that, yes, you have some cells on your property, but we won't let you develop unless you give us certain amount of property. And often, in fact, the standard was to take more property than was ever needed because development would be held up if you didn't give it. Of course, that took time and money, and developers in that business were not in a position to argue and had no recourse, actually. And it became a travesty, actually. So I don't want to beat that horse. I think it could all be rectified under RCTC, but I needed to just communicate that to Ann. I have privately and I have in the executive committee as well. And now I want to just say it publicly because it needs to be said. No more taking property without just compensation, using leverage just because you can. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And Councilmember or Mayor Pro Tem McGee and Councilmember Nagar, I think both your comments were taken very well. But Ann, did you have a response for some of that?
I do. First off, I'd like to thank Commissioner McGee and Commissioner Nagar for raising their comments. They have both taken time offline to have conversations with me, share their concerns and their expectations. And I very much appreciate that it was, they were also shared here today in the public conversation. I've said all along that we can make this work, but support of commissioners is really, really important. And I don't just define support as agreeing that it is not without its, support isn't just agreeing it's a good thing to do. Support is also identifying concerns and providing me with expectations about areas that I am to focus. So I just wanted to express my appreciation, and I have been taking a lot of notes, and I understand your concerns.
Thank you.
Very good. Mayor Vargas?
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to make a motion that we move to approve staff's recommendation, please.
Second.
Very good. I have a motion and a second. And are there any other comments?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Ted from Indian Wells, go right ahead.
Rancho Mirage.
I'm sorry, Rancho Mirage. My apologies.
All right. And you said one thing that obviously every stakeholder's ears will perk up. And that's, as a result of this merger, there would be more active involvement in local planning. And of course, as you know, there is nothing more sensitive to the local stakeholders than local planning. We're always concerned, of course, about the state usurping local planning. And when I hear something like that, I wonder if you could not expand on it just briefly, because I think this is an area that is so incredibly sensitive to all of us. If we lose the ability for all of us.
Morning, everyone. We'll be ready to start the meeting in just a moment. We'll.
Yep. Supervisor Perez, could you mute this meeting?
I'll be.
Sorry about that.
Staff this morning. Tom is joining.
That's all right. I think
Go ahead, Councilmember.
I think I already expressed my point. And if you would merely make comment to that, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner, for the question. I'm very glad you asked that. The involvement would be that development projects in Western Riverside County are required to go through various processes for development approval and consistency with the MSHCP. So when I talk about us being involved in land use, what I mean really is review of development projects with respect to consistency with the plan. So it's not that we would be engaged in land use policy or control. It's just that development projects will be going through a review process, and that is an area we've never had. RCTC has never served staff. RCTC staff has never been in a role of having to approve or disprove anything related to any development. So I highlighted it because there could be occasions where questions could come up about developments, but it doesn't mean that we are engaged in land use decision making within the jurisdictions. Is that?
Oh, Councilmember Ted from Ranch Mirage, you're muted, I believe.
No, I merely said thank you for the answer.
Very good.
And just to clarify, RCA does not have any land use authority. So neither RCTC nor RCA have any land use authority at all. It's just that we're reviewing developments. I probably should have used different wording in my comments.
Mr. Chairman, this is Mayor Hernandez, City of Coachella.
I was just ready to recognize you. Go right ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And in the Coachella Valley, we have a very successful model, obviously with CVAG and CVCC. It's worked out very, very well. And I certainly encourage this item going forward. I think it streamlines the process and makes it a little bit easier for coordination. One thing that in hearing your presentation and reading the report, you've mentioned that RCTC has been the largest contributor to the Western Riverside Plan. We've also heard from several council members or several board members about just compensation on land acquisitions, et cetera, in Western Riverside County, which we agree with. What I'm trying to get to is what's the mechanism in place to ensure that proportional Measure A dollars are spent and nothing more than what we need to, and how do you plan to not spend more in supporting the RCA from RCTC's coffers than what we need to? Because at the end of the day, we got bridges to build and roads to fix, and certainly we don't want to see more or less of that going forward.
Commissioner, thank you. Thank you for the question. So Measure A, the Measure A ordinance included a very specific amount of $153 million from Western County Measure A funds to go to RCA. Measure A has met its commitment. In addition, there was a commitment for what we call state funds to pay its share as well. Those were also committed back at the inception of the plan, in that we allocated state transportation improvement program funding, so out of the regional share, and Caltrans allocated some out of the interregional share. And that funded the endowment for 75 years. So the transportation investment in the MSHCP is complete. We will not be contributing more. Now, that being said, we do have projects that have impacts on species that are not included in the 146 species. So for example, the 79 realignment project has impacts on fairy shrimp. Fairy shrimp are not covered under the plan. So we have used and will need to use, we have used Measure A money for that project. For additional mitigation, we turn the land over to RCA, but that is the only exception. If we have a project that impacts species not covered, that is the only way Measure A would make any more additional land acquisition contribution. So I just want to be really clear here. Measure A's commitment to the plan is complete. So we are not the bank. What we will do is leverage state and federal funding, both in, on the environmental side of the funding stream, as well as the transportation stream, to help get this plan finished. But we will not be using Measure A money to do it.
Very, very good. At this point, I'll go ahead and ask for, are there any public comments? And I do have one more commissioner, but are there any public comments that we need to read into the record? Or any people, members of the public that wish to speak to this item would need to raise their hand? Lisa, you understand you have a letter?
Yes, thank you, Chair Benoit. We did receive a letter of support from the Endangered Habitats League that I did forward to all commissioners earlier in the week. Additionally, they provided a statement they'd like to be read into the record, which I will do now. Dear Chairperson Benoit and members of the Commission, Endangered Habitats League, EHL, supports the proposed agreement between RCA with RCTC for implementation and management services. For reference, EHL served on the original stakeholder group for the MSHCP. Our goals are assembly of the reserve and maintaining its permits. The stability of association with a larger agency makes sense for a long-term project like the MSHCP. The goals of the two agencies align well. RCTC is a long-term participant in the MSHCP and its largest funder. With a history of successful project streamlining via the MSHCP, RCTC has a strong interest in its continued success. RCTC is also experienced in grants and real estate, which promise synergy. Ongoing scientific integrity and adherence to the plan are essential. We are confident that RCTC will provide steady leadership. Ongoing policy direction from the RCA's own board provides continuity. Because we believe the proposed agreement can result in mutual benefits, EHL offers its support. And that's from Dan Silver, the executive director.
Very good. Do I have any other public comment? I do see Ed Sauls has raised his hand on the attendees side. We'll go ahead and get you unmuted here, Ed. Ed, you should be able to unmute on your side now, and you have 3 minutes to speak to public comment on this.
Good morning, everybody. I just wanted to say thank you. This is a good move. I remain in support of the action. There is much that needs to be done to implement this plan and to improve it, including the things as to permit processing and fair compensation. But the action here is excellent, and I look forward to working with all of you and Ann and the RCA to deal with the issues and make this a successful plan. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Ed. Any other public comment on this item?
Call for the question, Mr. Chair.
I'm almost there. Hold just a second, sir. Any other public comment? If not, we'll bring it back to the body. Larry Smith had his hand raised just before. Larry, do you need to make another comment, or can we go ahead and call for the question?
Well, Mr. Nagar got one step ahead of me. I was going to call for the question, but I just want to say this real briefly. I've never seen Ann shrink from any great grand responsibility. I consider this one, and I'm fully in support of this, primarily because I believe Ann has the capability to make this happen and take that organization and bring it under the discipline and structure that she's demonstrated to us in RCTC. So once again, Mr. Chair, call for the question.
Very good. I believe we have a first and a second on this, and we'll go ahead and call the question. Roll call, please.
District 1?
District 1, yes.
District 2,
Yes.
District 4,
Yes.
District 5,
Yes.
Banning,
Yes.
Beaumont,
Yes.
Blythe,
Yes.
Calamasa,
Yes.
Canyon Lake,
Aye.
Cathedral City,
Yes.
Coachella,
Yes.
Corona,
Aye.
Desert Hot Springs,
Aye.
Eastvale,
Aye.
Hemet,
All right, we're good. Yes. So.
Indian Wells, Indian Wells,
Aye.
Indio,
Aye.
Karupa Valley,
Yes.
La Quinta,
Yes.
Lake Elsinore,
Aye.
Menifee,
Yes.
Moreno Valley, Marietta,
Yes.
Norco,
Yes.
Palm Desert,
Yes.
Palm Springs,
Aye.
Harris,
Yes.
Rancho Mirage,
Yes.
Riverside,
Yes.
San Jacinto,
Yes.
Temecula,
Yes.
Wildemar.
Yes.
That item passes.
Very good. Thank you, everybody. Andy, do you have one more comment you wanted to make?
I do. Commissioners, thank you very much for the support today, for your comments, for setting your expectations. You have raised the bar high, and I assure you that your RCTC team will do everything it can to meet your expectations. I did want to mention Honey Burness, and I think Honey is joining us here. Honey has been part of the heart and soul of the RCA organization in the county of Riverside for a very long time. And Honey delayed her retirement in order to make sure that RCA was on solid footing before she retired. And so I just want to acknowledge and thank Honey Burness for everything she has done professionally and personally to help make sure that this organization is successful. And Honey, I promise you we'll take care of it. So thank you, Honey.
Very good. All right, thank you, everybody. We don't have any items pulled from the consent calendar. We do have commissioners' comments. I'm going to jump in first and just recognize that Mayor Bailey, I believe this might be your last meeting, so thank you for being here and all your service over the years. And then also Councilmember Russ Utz from San Jacinto, I understand might be your last meeting. Is there anyone else that might be leaving us and might not be able to be at the next meeting? Oh, Mike Nagar, that's right. Thank you, Mike.
Been an honor and a privilege to serve alongside you all, commissioners.
Likewise, sir.
See you around.
Berwin Hannah, we know we're losing you, but you have your hand raised. You have another comment?
Yeah, I don't know. I might be at the next meeting because they've extended my sentence till December the 16th. I have to go that extra meeting, so I might be there at the December the 9th meeting. If not, I know you're going to miss my Santa Claus hat, but I'll wear it anyway at my last council meeting. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. It's been a good ride.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Welch is two there, Mr. Chair. I think we're losing Mr. Welch.
That's Mr. Welch. Are we losing you too?
Is this for me? I'm sorry, I'm not hearing all of it. This may be my last meeting. I don't know how we're going to work December yet, but I want you to know I find this an outstanding group to work with. I applaud all of the staff. Ann Myers, you're something else. John, keep her on track. But it has just been a wonderful part of my life for quite a long time now. But now I got in my golf cart yesterday and I'm swinging a club again. So you guys enjoy yourselves, but protect my future. And congratulations to all of you and the best to all of you.
Oh, thank you, sir. And good luck in your future endeavors with the golf cart.
Yeah.
All right. Supervisor Spiegel, you have your hand raised?
We're under comments, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All of you that have served that are leaving us either this month or next month, you know, it is about it being a team. We haven't always agreed on everything, but your time and your efforts and your input has been greatly appreciated. So those of you that are leaving and I'll be back, we say a happy goodbye and hopefully some stress off your life and good luck in your future endeavors. Now, another thing I wanted to bring up, and I'm just gonna, and I didn't reach out to you, Anne, and I probably should have, but just to share that I'm disappointed about the 15 toll lanes not opening, and maybe a little more explanation to all of us, because I'm getting so much pushback from people within our communities that are a little disappointed at that not being open. If it's just a toll, I thought when we opened the 91, we had free tolls for the first month, if we could have done that, or I don't know the real details. I know you kind of explained it. There's some toll operating things. The signs came up, and the day those signs came up, I got calls. So I had your email and I kind of had it on hand, but it just wasn't feeling that was enough what they wanted to hear. So I guess in your comments, you can address that. How's that?
Very good. Yes. All right, Councilmember Nagar, who's also leaving us. You have your hand raised, go right ahead.
Yes, I did. First, congratulations to all my colleagues here that got reelected. Well deserved. As you mentioned, Mr. Chair, this will be my last meeting. And, you know, after 23 years, as I start to contemplate starting to lay everything down, I did not realize just how much it has been a blessing and an honor to serve with you all. As I look back, I'm really going to miss it. I know I'll see all of you, you know, around Riverside, but I just really wanted to say thank you to all of you and God bless.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for all your service and good luck on all of your future endeavors as well. Councilmember Harnick?
Thank you, Chair. I have to first ask, is Arnold San Miguel on the line? I'm guessing not. Okay, so he asked me to make these comments on about the Southern California Association of Governments if he was not able to make this meeting. So he just wanted everyone to know that the 6th cycle RENA appeals process has begun, and please go on to the website, the SCAG website, if you'd like to know more about that process and how you can be involved if you need to be. And also the 11th annual Southern California Economic Summit is on December 1st from 9 to noon. And of course, it's virtual. The theme is Charting an Inclusive Regional Recovery. Their keynote speaker is Tom Friedman, which should be very interesting. And of course, for elected officials and city managers, county executive staff, it's registration is complimentary. So I'm sure it'll be one of the panels is resiliency in the era of disruption. Sounds applicable. And a roundtable taking action toward a more inclusive economy. So it sounds like it's going to be great. And I know I'm going to be involved, and I hope everyone else takes the opportunity to be involved in that economic summit.
Very good, thank you. Mayor Hernandez, and congratulations on your reelection.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and just let me say thank you to all of our colleagues who have been serving with us and over these last years. Certainly, we've learned a lot from all of you, and so we thank you for your work. And today potentially might be a big day for a lot of our cities. I understand the CTC will be perhaps awarding several projects, and I'm hoping that in your comments you can maybe just talk about what we did differently this time around, because last time they awarded, Riverside County got no money, but hopefully that's not the case this time, and we'll see some projects get awarded today from the CTC.
Very good, and if you could add that to your comments. Councilmember Speak.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to echo the thanks for the folks that won't be back. This is their last meeting, and especially Councilmember and my colleague in Norco, though my mom knows where he lives, so I know she'll be over knocking on his door asking him questions. So And additionally, I wanted to thank Supervisor Spiegel for bringing up at least opening the 15 section between the 91 and Cahalco. It seems like, I mean, I drive that pretty much, a few times a week, and I think that all of our constituents that are traveling on the 15 going northbound, they get that free use going southbound now, and it doesn't seem that there's much work being done on the northbound side. So, and I appreciate, Ann, you getting back to me when I asked a few weeks ago, but would like to at least get a little more information, and if there's a way that we can do that, especially if we're gonna have to wait till March, it would be a boon to basically the people that have paid for for this, and those people will be the ones that will be entering the toll lanes, the existing toll lanes on the 91. So I think there's hopefully a benefit there, and we can find a way to make that happen for all of our constituents. Lastly, I thank you for my colleague from Coachella for bringing up the CTC. I'm excited to hear. But that also makes me think about, we have this change in Washington. We're going to have a vice president that's from California, and we're going to start seeing some opportunities for infrastructure investments. And I think the more that we have ready to go and in the pipeline, the more opportunities we're going to have to fill those opportunities. I think that there's, Councilmember McGee or Mayor Pro Tem McGee said back probably a year ago, having that list of things that could potentially be funded is having that step there is one of the most important things that we can do. And I think that maybe we should look at revisiting our list to see if there's things that we can add to it, maybe move them around and see, because I do think there's going to be some increase in transportation funding from the feds, and the sooner that we have our stuff ready to go, the more benefit we're going to have, or the opportunity for benefit. So that's it. Thank you.
Very good. That's all the commissioner comments, and you go right ahead.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Commissioners, with respect to the California Transportation Commission, they are supposed to be announcing today the SB1 awards for the Congested Corridor Program, the Trade Corridor Program, the local program. I'm not sure if there's others, but what I can share is that there were 14 projects submitted from the County of Riverside. Various jurisdictions, in some cases where local agencies weren't eligible, WRCOG submitted on behalf of some of the cities. We submitted 14 projects requesting $182 million to be able to support over $500 million worth of projects. I can share with you that statewide, these programs are all very, very much oversubscribed, and I'm looking at this. I believe that there were almost $4 billion worth of requests statewide. And it looks like there were over 100 applications received. So this is a highly competitive program. We are supposed to hear today. As soon as I hear, I will ensure that we send out an email to all commissioners so you know whether or not Riverside County received any funding. I would point out that those are just the projects we submitted, but the 24191 interchange was also jointly submitted by OCTA, RCTC, and Caltrans, both districts. And to the north in San Bernardino County, the extension of the I-15 toll lanes from Cantu Galliano, I think it's up to Foothill Boulevard in San Bernardino. That one was submitted as well. So stay tuned today. We hope, fingers crossed, is supposed to be a big day, and we will let you know as soon as we hear. Also, with respect to funding, and I assure you, we are already engaged and in conversations about what the opportunities may be from a federal funding standpoint. The transition team was announced. Phil Washington, the CEO of LA Metro, is leading the transition team related to transportation. Therese McMillan, who is the Chief Executive of the Metropolitan Transportation Commission in the Bay Area. She used to be the FTA administrator, Federal Transit Administration administrator. And you may recall, she came to several of our Paris Valley Line celebrations when we received that small start. Therese has also been in LA. So there are definitely some Californians on that transition team and Californians we know. So I assure you, we are going to engage immediately in those conversations to the extent that we can. Finally, with respect to Interstate 15. So a couple of comments there. The delay on I-15 is directly related to the toll system. So the software, the back office, that is a dynamically priced corridor. And what that means, it's going to change price depending on the level of traffic. And that's different than the way the 91 operates. The 91 changes only every quarter, if then. And that system has been in operation for over 20 years. So when we opened the 91, the back office, the software, that was 20 years old at the time, and there was no need to run the kind of testing that we need to run with the system we have on I-15. It's a pretty complicated system. We had to make modifications to it because the 1591 connector got funded and is now getting ready to start construction. So that got layered on. The actual civil construction on I-15 is for the most part done. There are some drainage drainage systems being put in along the corridor now in several locations. That work is supposed to be done by December. Also by December, our goal is to put the north and the south ends of the projects into their final configuration on the ends from a striping standpoint and a signing standpoint. We can't open the existing lanes just to let people run in the lanes because we still need to test. We cannot test the software and the roadside hardware system if we've got live traffic on it because we need to do runs. So we need to do trial runs in the corridor. There's still tolling work that needs to be done. So I understand people are frustrated that we have a several month delay here. I apologize for that, but we are opening a very complicated, dynamically priced toll system, and to open it prematurely would cause significant challenges and frustrations. We've got to make sure it's ready to open before we do it. On the south end of the project, in the southbound direction, we're currently in a review process with Caltrans as we try to put that into its final configuration. So that should, Commissioner Speak, you raised questions about, the southbound area. We're looking to get that all striped by the end of the year. So we are moving as quickly as we can. We're opening what we can, but we can't open the lanes prematurely while we're still trying to finish the tolling network. We simply can't.
All right. Well, thank you for those comments. With that, brings us to our end of the meeting. We'll be back here again December 9th. Hope to see as many as we can then, but to understand some of you are off to go golfing. So everyone have a great time, and see you then. Thank you all.